Hello lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, welcome back to another video. Given that the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series, or just the Tony Hawk's games in general, have generated an estimated 1.4 billion in sales, and yes, I said billion, it's fair to say basically everyone who has played video games should know who Tony Hawk is. However, sometimes, even though rarely, when talking about the old Tony Hawk games, people would forget about the first real spin-off that the series had, which was Tony Hawk's Underground. Being a fresh new take on what the Tony Hawk games were up to this point, Underground sought to move the series into a more new and interesting direction by adding more story and gameplay elements. Developers Neversoft managed to take the formula that was tried and tested with the first 4 games in the Pro Skater series and managed to migrate them into this 2003 classic, which if you're American means it's now old enough to drink, because we don't feel old enough as it is. While bringing in new traversal, level, character, and custom skateboard design options, along with refining the gameplay to be its most responsive and snappy to date, Underground was so well received that the amazing remasters we had of Pro Skater 1 and 2 ended up using this game's control scheme because it was arguably the best the series ever had. Starting out in New Jersey with your created character and would-be friend, foe, and part-time arsonist Eric Sparrow, attending a skate demo by legend Chad Musker, who eventually convinces you, the player character, to try and get sponsored by a local skate shop run by Stacy Peralta, who himself is actually a former pro skater. These days he seems to mostly be into making documentaries, and more power to him. Upon attempting to get this sponsorship though, drug dealers break into Peralta's shop, stealing a bunch of gear, leading you to be tasked with getting them back, leading to a rather strange stealth section. However, it actually does set up what you should expect in this game, and that's a lot more variety than what we've had in previous Tony Hawk games. Once you've collected everything, you'll see why I said Eric is a part-time arsonist as he burns down their car in revenge. Eric is unhinged. Forced to run for their lives, both Eric and the player character flee, setting everything into motion as you travel around the world to different locations in attempts to go pro. The plot itself is pretty interesting, especially for a sports game, even if it is arcadey in nature. I wouldn't claim it to be the best by any means, but thanks to its relatively short runtime and the fact it moves at a rather rapid pace, the twists and turns can keep you engaged throughout. Compared to prior games in the Tony Hawk's franchise, Underground saw tons of cutscenes, all voiced by the actual skaters, who do a surprisingly good job, especially for some who it was their first time ever actually voice acting. It should come as no surprise though, in my opinion, that Bam Margera probably does the best out of everyone here. He also arguably has the best cutscene in the game.
It's so good. We can't go skating right now. Look at these tanks. Damn!
It's not only the surprisingly good voice acting that stands out here, as is customary with the Tony Hawk series, the game's soundtrack is incredible. Consisting of all licensed tracks, I can't really show you any here, but I do highly recommend taking the time to listen to it because there is a rather wide range of genres and there is plenty for you to enjoy. Underground's level design overall is more of what you come to expect from the Pro Skater series, however I'd say it's a bit of a 180 since it has a bigger focus on city environments more so than skate parks. A really nice change from the Pro Skater series was the removal of the timer. This got rid of a lot of the stress and allowed players to learn the levels in a more natural way. What I find most impressive about the levels themselves is how the missions utilize pretty much the entire map. Although there are certain tasks like score a certain amount of points that will get you kind of sticking to a specific location, most of the collect, interact, or break X amount of item missions will have you going everywhere. And they teach you some pretty sick lines, making you learn things in a very organic manner. If I had to level any real criticism at the game, I would say it's the lack of overall mission variety. Sure, there's plenty of missions to be done, and it is a fun time, but you're going to expect the same handful of mission types throughout each level. They pretty much boil down to either having a vehicle, run around on foot and collect, score X amount of points, do specific tricks, learn specific tricks, and find X item, person, or location. There are a couple missions that break up the repetitive nature, such as the sneaking missions that are... they're a thing, and the skate competitions themselves, but I would have appreciated just a little bit more variety here. Which, if memory serves, they did do that with Underground 2, though I haven't played that game in roughly 18 years. An interesting addition that Underground also has is the ability to create your own tricks. Now, I won't lie, I've never really messed around with this system at all, even as a kid. Even these days, it's not something that I'm really that interested in. It's not a bad system, it actually works quite well, but it's just not something that I'm particularly going to go out of my way for, as I have a hard enough time staying on the board as is. Speaking of tricks, everything you would expect this game to have from the grabs, flips, grinds, and lip tricks are here, and thanks to the ability to both sketch on vehicles and get off your board, you now have a ridiculous ridiculous amount of options when it comes to making the perfect combos and lines. You pretty much get to treat the world as a playground. It's not all rainbows and butterflies though. As you'll notice early on, you can't really do a hell of a lot, and that's because of the game's stat system. Compared to previous games where you would just collect stat points and put them into a character, Underground has you completing challenges in order to complete them. Want to increase your grinds because you love doing them? Hold a grind for 5 seconds in order to gain a point in grinding. A really nice fact is if you can complete multiple challenges in a single go, you are rewarded for it. It just means you level up faster. However, if you're not necessarily particularly great at the game, and you might struggle, you might only get to that 5-second grind, but you gain that 1 stat point, which then means it's now easier the next time around you go for the next challenge. It's a really rewarding system, and, I'm sorry for the awful pun, it gets rid of the grind. You can hate me for that one. I mentioned earlier that there are vehicles in this game, and sadly, if I was to level another criticism, it is this game's driving. The vehicle sections themselves are probably hands down the worst parts of the game for me. If anything, they're the only bad part of the game for me. Although as a kid I didn't hate them, these days I find myself wishing they weren't there so I could just do the skating, since this is where the game obviously excels. I know there are plenty of you out there who are purists for the Pro Skater series and just as many fans of the Skate series of games. But if you can get your hands on Underground to replay it, I highly recommend it. It's definitely arcadey and it's not going to be a real skating simulator style game. But if you want to figure out some insane lines while listening to a banging soundtrack and beating the shit out of Eric because he's a douchebag, Tony Hawk's Underground is where it's at. So with that, lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, it brings us to the end of another video. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the Tony Hawk's Underground game. If you have a favourite Tony Hawk's game or skate game, let me know in the comments section below. If you say you like Simpsons skateboarding, I hate you and we can't be friends. If you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting that like button. If you want to go that extra step, you can hit the subscribe button. If you want to go that extra mile, you can support me on Ko-fi from just $1 a month like these lovely people here. And with that, I hope you all stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.